in today's video, I'm going to talk about the biggest mistake in post-processing. Let's see, okay, let me grab my pen. So it's what I mentioned. I got this board. It seems to be looking okay. I saw that some of you guys are joining. So, well, I mean, if you guys have been listening to me before, or have even taken my some of my classes, you already knew. But I just want to have this opportunity to talk to the new members in this group about this big mistake about post-processing. All right. So always have a notebook, right? So what I want to talk about today is probably the biggest pain point in wildlife photography or bird photography, which is this gap, this secret between what you got in the field, right? A raw image, supposedly, if you shoot raw, between the raw image to this award-winning photo that is being printed with a museum quality or award-winning contest or publication, or being able to be sold over, for example, $1,000 to buyers, right? So from this raw image, turning it into something that you can print, you can share, you can publish. Like what is this secret, right? Isn't this the biggest pain point that we all want to see? Like give me a show of hand, like right here. Like how many of you truly enjoy the process of post-processing? Just type it, like I love post-processing. I bet not a lot of us really enjoy this process, and this is really like a myth, because when you took photos like raw, well, first of all, a lot of people didn't even understand, and I actually have one photographer who told me that I never shoot raw. I only shoot JPEG, and so I don't need to learn about all this post-processing. And I was like, okay, fine. But the thing is, for a raw file, well, the only thing you need to know, really, in terms of whether you should shoot raw, is that a raw file is about 12-bit, right? And a JPEG is about 8-bit. What it means is that for every color in the image, the gradation level, meaning that, like, for example, you have the color red, right? You can have like really deep red to the really light red, right? And in the gradual change of this color, a raw file can capture 4 bits more of information, and 4 bit is a lot. Is how much? Like 16 times? I don't know how many times, but you know, if you want a very smooth graduation of changes of color, you always want to shoot raw. But then the problem is that for a monitor, in order to display this photo, or even in printing, the printer also is limited to a certain bit level. So how do you transform your 12-bit raw file into something that is optimized for printing? Is almost like an art, right? So I hope I already convinced you to start shooting raw, because I mean, you spend so much money for a camera, you don't want to get rid of a lot of information when you try to capture a photo, right? But the second thing is, to turn a raw file into the what you post, what you share on Facebook, or what you want to send to a printer, or send to publication, or send to like photo contest, right? Nature's Best Photography, for example, right now is not to advertise because I don't get any commission, but right now is allowing submission. And how do you turn your raw file to be contest ready, right? This is a big problem on that. And if you were like me before, when you first started, right, what you do is you download you purchase Lightroom and Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop, right? And then you import your file into Lightroom, and then when you click on develop, you see all these sliders, right? You see the temperature slider, the tints, the exposure, contrast. I'm just looking at it right here. I didn't recite it, but highlight, shadow, whites, blacks, clarity, dehaze, vibrance, saturation, and like the list goes on. And you were very confused, right? I was very confused when I first started. So what I did, I bought books, right? I went to Barnes and Noble, and then I picked the best reviewed Photoshop or Lightroom books. And any of you have read the book by, for example, Scott Kelby, right? It's a very nice book, but I can also tell you that it's like 500 pages thick, and it actually explains every slider very carefully in Lightroom and Photoshop, and all the buttons and all. But the problem is, after you read all this and then you understand what is the weakness and strength of all the sliders, which one do you really use, and by how much do you use, right? You really have no idea. And then you can take some editing class out there. There are a lot of photo editing class in like Udemy and Creative Live and all these, right? But what I find out is none of them was really geared towards wildlife photography and bird photography, right? And one thing though was so let me tell you a story. So I have so you know, when I first started photography, I joined some of the photo tours and workshops, right? Because these wildlife photographer gurus, they are very good in like finding animals, and they're experienced in the field, right? So they know how to edit the photos and all. And in one of my my trips that I went to, I met a friend. His name, let me just, now so now you see that I'm using this mic right now, so I can like stay further away from the phone, but the problem is that I couldn't see the comments very clearly. Oh, it's reversed, huh? Well, it doesn't really matter, because I'll try to fix it. I don't know how to fix it. Anybody know how to reverse it? It's good to know. Anyways, I'm gonna draw more picture and stuff. So anyways, in that one of the trips that I went to a workshop by Charles Glassett. He's a wonderful photographer, Canon Explorer of light and all. But in the trip, I met a friend. His name is Carl, and I actually have mentioned him in some of my blog posts and all. So he is a very interesting guy. He was talking to me at that time, and both of us were obsessed with editing. So he said, he talked to me, he said, "Hey, Tin Man, I always wanted to learn the perfect parameter for example, for sharpening and for noise removal and for how to get the best color accuracy," right? And I said, "Oh, me too." I read all these blogs and I went to forums to learn like what is the parameters for the sharpest, because I'm very obsessed with sharpness. So I always want to learn like how to get the sharpest photo ever. Like what is the parameter? What is the radius? What is the percentage of it? And Carl said, well, in the last 5 years, I have been to, I don't know, like he went to over 10 workshops a year, all with different photographers. All of them were top photographers, National Geographic, like you name it, like BBC Photographer of the Year. Like he joined all of their workshops, and he wrote detailed notes on every one of them. So he would follow their steps when they do the editing, and then he did this step-by-step thing. And eventually he had like a whole notebook about all these different techniques by the best photographers out there. And the best thing was, he said, "Hey, Tin Man, take a look. Like, let me know what you think." And I said, "Oh my God, this is awesome, right? You spend, I don't know, $100,000 to learn about all these techniques." So he wrote in details, like each line, like how do you like do this magic lasso to circle the animals, right? And then you create a new layer, and then you do the sharpen, and then you merge the layers and like all these steps. And I said, "That's wonderful." Okay, and then I try every single steps on it, and then compare with my own notes about the best techniques, right? I'm gonna have the craziest sharpening techniques that I can ever got, right? God, and so hold on one second. Just gotta have my coffee and check my time. Okay, so I just talked some BS for 15 minutes. So what I want to tell you is, so after I learned the most amazing sharpening technique and the best denoising technique, and then the best color accuracy, and then like how to optimize the vibrance, the saturation of the photos, right? And then I applied it to my photos. And guess what? I showed to my friends, and their comments after they look at my photos were very surprising. Well, actually not surprising. Guess what they said? "Wow, Tin Man, your photos is so sharp." And I said, "Yes, like, I got my money's worth," right? And then the second comment is that you must be really good in Photoshop. And that that just like broke my heart, because I didn't want to be like considered as like a Photoshopper. Like I don't want to be like, I don't like to be good at Photoshop. I want these photos to be emotional, inspiring, and helps like whatever conservation, right? Make a difference in people's life, instead of being the photos that is super sharp. I mean, sharpness is very, very important, but you don't want the photos to be so sharp and in a way that you get the distraction that people only look at the sharpness. Or I bet you guys have all seen a lot of people posting photos that is ultra saturated. Like the colors of the trees is so yellowish and greenish that you want to puke, right? And it is very easy, right? All you need is just to go to vibrance. You don't go to saturation, you go to vibrance in Lightroom, and then just slide it to the right, and then the whole image becomes all this saturated like Fuji Velvet color. Like if you guys know about this film days, right? This is like the most saturated film that you can get, right? Everything looks very almost artificial in that it is very saturated, right? So when you look at those photos, you don't really get the goal of what you want in the photos, right? And then what? Let me just take a look. Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Felix. He says I'm the favorite photographer in the planet. That's too kind. But so I want to continue my conversation. And then I stopped. Like after I talked to Carl on that, and I said, "Gee, now I own the best sharpening techniques, best noise removal techniques, the best color correction, and also contrast. I study luminosity mask, like who is an expert on that. It's very complicated. If you took a luminosity mask class, there's like 30 lectures, 40 lectures, all detail and stuff, right? I learned it all. And then I sat down. And at the time, I was very lucky because I was a poor graduate student at the time, and I studied something called computer vision. And I stumbled across a free lecture by a very famous professor at the time. And then in the lecture, he talks about human visual cortex, and like what we see and how it affects the emotion, and how, like all these complicated things. And then I started to think about the most famous painting of it all. I started to study like what makes certain painting or any visual art like become timeless. Right? Like for example, like if you guys know what is the most famous painting of all time, I actually mentioned to some of you in some of my previous webinars, but the answer is very simple. It's Mona Lisa, right? No doubt about it. Everybody knows that Mona Lisa is the most famous painting of all time. And why? Why is it so famous? Oh, I saw some likes. Let's say if you guys enjoyed it so far, click like and click love and whatever. It means a lot to me. Okay, so anyway, so I studied. I thought about it, and I said, Mona Lisa. Like, what do people talk about when they think about Mona Lisa? Right. The first reaction is that, well, I heard that when you look at Mona Lisa, no matter where you stand in the museum, it looks like Mona Lisa was looking right at you, right? Her eyes is looking at you. And the second thing is, people didn't know if it's really smiling or not. He said, like, if I look in this angle, she's smiling, but in this angle she's not smiling. Like, oh, like this is just amazing. Like her eyes, I don't know why, like it's like magic. Like whenever I look at the photo, it's like immediately my eyes was being drawn to her eyes, drawn to Mona Lisa's eyes. It is enchanting. Right, see, think about it. Right, this is the thing. This is like, I thought about it, I said, this is what I really want people to feel in my photos. It's the enchanting, like it's like magic. Like what is that magic that attracts your photos attracts me into the eye of the animal, right? So anybody still with me so far? So now I realize that, and I think, okay, so from now on, I should really experiment with different component of the editing process, so that my goal in right now, like listen, right, this is very important right now, is that every single step of my editing, like no matter whether I slide the slider or do any editing or any adjustment, the only goal is to grab the eyes of the viewers. Right? When you look at a photo, anybody, right? Like when they look at a photo, the first thing they want to look at, well, the first thing is that they wander around the photo, like what is the photographers wanting me to look at, right? So their eyeball, right? There's some research that did it. They said they wander around, and then eventually they start at the lower left of the photo, right? This is statistics. Like everybody start to look at the lower left of the photo first, and then they try to look for some hints. Like, is there any hint of the photo? I'll explain to you what that means. That help me to see, please help me. Like, I have no idea what to look at in your photo. And if the goal of your editing is that anything that you do to the photos after you get it from the raw is to help the viewers to move their eyeballs to the hook of the photo. Right? Okay, so Leonardo da Vinci knows the techniques. I studied his paintings for a long time. I read his whole book, 600 pages, and talked to a lot of my friends who told me about the book and discussed a lot about that. These master painters, they all know how the human visual cortex works. So everything they do in the painting is to help the viewers to move their eyes immediately to the hook of the photo. So let me tell you how much it changes the reaction. So for example, if anything that you did for the editing of the photo helped the viewers to quickly move to the hook of the photo for maybe 0.2 seconds faster, what they feel is that, oh my God, this photo has magic. This photo is like guiding my eyes to it. I don't know what, like there's some attraction that moved my eyes to the photo. So Da Vinci was able to do it. So anybody who went to the museum or look at the photos and they look at Mona Lisa, the first thing they look at is the eyes. And they said, why? And it's because Da Vinci specifically did her painting with all kind of methods to guide the viewer's eye. So for example, let me show you one example of this thing, right? Some of you got my calendar. This is the calendar of my photo. So what do I mean by the hook of this photo, right? If you look into this photo right here, this is the mother bear, and then this is the cup right here, right? So if you look into this photo, like assume that it is still the raw photo right here. I want to ask you, what is the hook of this photo? What is the hook? Let me see if there's so many, anybody looking at it. I see a lot of comments, but God, I hate this light. I have this light shining on me, and then it's like looking backlit on this. But anyways, if you look into this photo, the hook of this photo is right here. The cup is kissing on the nose of the mother, right? And then what is the second hook? The second hook is that the mother opened her mouth so that you can see the tongue of it, right? So here, like she looks happy. She looks happy, right? With the tongue coming out, like almost smiling, and then the cup doing this. So there are how many hooks in this photo? Only 2 hooks, really, just like this one and this one. And when you do editing, most of the time what we do in editing, when the gurus teach us is, okay, I'm gonna first adjust the color, right? I do the color balance, right? Originally it was in auto balance, and now I just slide it to certain thing, and then I increase the vibrance so that it is more saturated, right? And then I do the magic lasso, right? To circle the cup and the mother, and then create a new layer, right? And some of you who are a little bit lazy, not to complain about you, is that you only do it in Lightroom, and then what you do is you just do a little bit of sharpening, right? And then you slide the sharpening to the right, and then you do a little bit of noise removal of the photo, and then you open up some shadow, right? That's what these gurus taught us, right? And that's it, right? And now I want to tell you that approach is exactly what the topic of today's talk is about. This is completely wrong, like, because everything you do in Lightroom, Photoshop, or whatever editing software, it doesn't really matter. But the only thing that is very important is that everything from now on that you do has to lead the viewers to immediately look at this area right here. Like, for example, like I told you that when we look at this photo, I show you this photo, right? People will look around, and then they will start from here, the lower left, right? Is this lower left? No, this is the lower left from the photo. It's flipped. So from here, how do you lead the eyes to us right here, right? And I said, Tin Man, like, what else can we do? We already taken the photo, right? There's nothing you can do in editing to help the eyes to lead it to here. And I also want to tell you that this is wrong. This is wrong. And God, I'm going over time on this. But I hope that you guys, now that at least I painted this image in you, that you have to rethink the whole process of editing from now on. Because why? Well, time changes now. I was looking into an article some time ago. They mentioned about the Wildlife Photographer of the Year award, right? Some of you here aspire to win some big awards in life, right? Like in international awards, like Nature's Best Photography, the European Photographer of the Year, and all these things. So I was looking at at some information, and they said in the 1980s, when the contest first started, guess how many photo submissions they had for the first year? They had 600. And how many awards they are going to give? They are giving like 80 awards, like, I don't know, 10 categories and then 8 awards or something. So you're fighting among 600 photos, but you have a chance of 80 to win. And fast forward to these last few years, right? Nature's Best Photography. I heard there are more than 25,000 submissions. And then a Wildlife Photographer of the Year, there are 50,000 submissions. So you can't just follow what the gurus said in those books about just slide the vibrance, just sharpen it a little bit and then denoise a little bit and expect that your photos will stand out. And because the only goal, as I mentioned to you guys right now, I hope I didn't need to repeat it too many times, which is, let me just write it down right here. So what is the goal of editing from now on? Is to lead, oh God, it's inverted, right? Lead the eyes of the viewers to the hook of your image, right? So every single step this is just one objective. Like no matter how you change the sharpness and vibrance and colors and all, and then you ask me like, Tin Man, what do you mean? Like we only have this control, right? You just slide the clarity, slide the color. How do you do this thing, right? So the key thing to do this is by this one thing. Listen to me. This one thing is called local adjustment. So you don't do global, because for global adjustment, for example, if you sharpen the whole photo, right, the whole photo will become much sharper. So you only sharpen, so some of you may say, I know it, Tin Man, I know you only sharpen the animal, right? Like for example, in this photo right here, right, you said if you sharpen the whole photo, right, like you go to Lightroom and then just do sharpening and then you slide to the right, the whole photo will be sharper, right? But it doesn't change anything, does it? Like, what is the goal of here? Does it help to lead the eye of the viewers to the hook? The answer is no, right? Because the whole image is sharper, right? And then some of you may say, hey, Tin Man, I knew it, so I only do this magic lasso thing. Like I draw the lines of the boundaries of these pairs, and then I create a new layer, and then I sharpen it, right? The answer is still wrong, because so the thing, God, I'm so crazy now. So it helps a little bit, because right now this part is much sharper than the surrounding part, right? But the problem is that you still doesn't lead the eyes to this part, right? So, and then you said, so Tin Man, what do we do, right? And then some of you smarter people right here will say that, okay, now I know what you mean. I only sharpen this part, right? And if I sharpen this part, then people would move, like immediately they will look, what is the sharpest area of the image? And then they look at it, right? And the answer is still no. Why? Because if you only sharpen this part, and then you don't sharpen the whole image, the image will look weird, right? What I mean by weird is that the image will no longer look natural, just like those people who slide the vibrance, the saturation all the way to the right? You just want to puke, because the whole image doesn't have a gradual move of that. So one of the best way to do this sharpening is to have a gradual change of sharpening. For example, you would want to sharpen the eyes or the tongue of the animal or the head of this cup with the sharpest parameter. Sometimes even a little bit of over sharpening is okay, because for human eyes, if they see a gradual change of these parameters, they don't feel it. I don't have time to illustrate this, but what I mean by that is, if this part is the sharpest, and then the head of the mother's head is a little bit less sharper, and then here is also a little bit less sharper. I mean, there's no less sharper. Just less sharpening on this part. And then this whole part is still sharper than the surrounding. And then your eyes will just follow this sharpening path to go into this thing, right? So, you guys still get me what I mean by that? So, what I mean by that is, so this is the raw image right here, right? So the first step from now on is you don't go to Lightroom or Photoshop and then just follow the steps, like, okay, sharpening, color correction, noise removal. The first step is what? The first step is to look for the hook of the image. And I told you, right, the hook of this one is where? It's right here, right? Right here, right? And then let me show you the some better example of the, so this one, right? What is the hook? Is right here, right? And then, okay, this one, right? Some of you have seen this one, the bison and the bird. What is the hook of this? It's right here. So you don't even care if people look into this thing. Your key of editing is to shorten the time, to help the audience to immediately look into this one. So I just demonstrated to you about okay, calm down. So first of all, you identify the hook, right? And then I just mentioned to you the sharpening technique, right? And right here, I want to ask you, so what do you need to change in a local sense, a local adjustment? What do you do to help lead the eyes, right? So I studied a long time on like Leonardo da Vinci, Van Gogh, Rembrandt, like all these people, they are all masters, right? If you look at more of their photos, you realize how many tricks they do in their painting to help lead the eyes. And they all utilize this thing I call the human visual cortex and the psychology of the humans to move the eyes. For example, let me ask you a question, right? So for humans, right, when it's very cold, like when outside is very cold, you always want to go to a warmer place, right? And when it's very dark outside, right, what are you looking for? You're looking for brighter area, right? And so this is actually what is it called? Imprinted in our brain. Like whenever it's very dark, our eyes always wander around to look for the light source. And when it's very cold, right, we look for warm clothes to wear, and then we want to move to the warmer places. And also like the sharpening, right? When the thing is kind of blurry and all, you always want to look for something that has more detail in it, more contrasty area. So what you can do right here is it's just these few things right here. God, this is very exciting. I'm getting a lot of comments right here. I didn't have time to look at it yet. I'll look at it in the end, but well, it's already 30 minutes. I plan to do it in 40 minutes, so I'll speed it up. And if you guys want to hear more about this, let me know too. But now it's getting exciting, right? So, but first of all, before I got into all this, so some of you may say, dude, I hate to be different, right? Just follow the gurus and do what they taught you, right? Why are you creating these new techniques? This is not proven and all, right? So in the last few years, I have applied this new discovery that I had, and it is very fulfilling. I'm very happy to do that, because every time I post a photo, people's response is that, I'm not trying to brag here, but people would say, Tin Man, your photos looks enchanting to me. It's like magic. I don't know why my eyes is being drawn to the eye or the most exciting part of your photo. Like there's some magic in it. What is it? And they couldn't tell, right? Why they couldn't tell? Well, I'm going to tell you today. So, and then also I have taught, it's just not just me, I have taught some students over the years, and it gave me so much satisfaction, because some of the students were getting National Geographic top shots, many of them, and many of them got publications. And one of the craziest thing was, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, when National Geographic picked like 100 best wildlife photos of the year that people submitted and all. And 5 of them were from some of the people I taught. So it was very exciting. So it's all about this mind trick, right? So everything is psychology, right? If you guys know, in the whole world, everything is really just to understand the human psychology and do it like this. So let me continue on this. So I told you that, right? Everything goes from dark, like our eyes like to move from darker area to brighter area, right? So this is point number one. So what you can do is, at first I wanted to be more secretive about this. I hope you guys can find it out, but now, because I don't have a lot, because I'm trying to use this whiteboard to be more interactive instead of just using a PowerPoint slide, right? You know, it's boring when you can't even see my super handsome face and my super sexy accent, right? You can actually hear my accent even in the thing. But anyways, what I want to tell you is, if you guys, after this talk, you go to Wikipedia and search Mona Lisa, and then you look at it, and you look at the skin. Like, this is Mona Lisa, right? This hand is right here, and then like this, and then she looked like this one, right? This is not Mona Lisa right here. But if you look at her hand right here, and then if you look deeper into the color, like the brightness of the hand and the brightness of the face, you see that Leonardo da Vinci actually specifically changed the brightness of the hands versus the brightness of the face in a very gradual sense, that if I didn't tell you, you would think that the whole image, the skin has the same color. But if you look carefully, you can see that there's a gradual change of the brightness of the whole face. So what he used is one of these techniques, is dark to brightness technique, which we didn't even know it, but we can sense it. It's almost like those crazy hi-fi stereo. I don't know if you guys have spent a lot of money onto those things, and once upon a time I spent some money on this high-end studio, like studio sound thing. And if you close your eyes, right, for those high-end music, you almost can feel that the violinist is right in front of you, because and then the cheaper, the lower end music instrument didn't have that. But it's just like this tiny feeling that you have to feel to know it, right? So you can never be too obvious, like this example right here that I demonstrated to you. You can't just sharpen right here, like ultra sharp right here, and then everything else doesn't have any editing, because everything needs to be a gradual, smooth change. And Leonardo da Vinci knew about it. He in his book called that the waves of like gradation or something. But I recommend you guys to read it, but it's like a 600 pages book, and it's wonderful, but it will take you a long time. And after you read it, you might still do not know how to transform that into the editing. But I just really want to save you the time. So everything, it has to be, so this is the point one, right? Lead the eyes of the viewer to the hook, right? The second key thing, well, this is the biggest mistake already, right? So I talk about this mistake. So today's end goal is already done. I hope even if you guys don't agree, you have to think about it. The second thing is that everything has to be subtle, or like you say, like gradual. Anything that is changing too much, too sudden, people can feel it. When people can see that you have done something to your photo, then you think that you are a Photoshopper, and this is not good. You don't want them to see that, like, oh my God, this photo is so sharp. You must be so good in Photoshop. And then boom, you're done. Then you can never get out of it. Like, people will talk about you and say, hey, this guy is good at Photoshop. I don't even know if I should trust his photo. So the key is you have to be very, very subtle in your editing. But subtle also has his power in it too, because if you know how to use it, there's an old saying in some Chinese kung fu, is that they can use like Tai Chi, you know, like they can use like 4 ounces of power. Like if you punch me, like all I need is just to move you a little bit, and then you lose your balance, and then you hit. This is the key thing. You have to be very subtle, but it can be very powerful too. So anyways, what am I after? So the first thing, right, Da Vinci is dark to bright, right? The second thing, what is it like? What can we change in the photo, Tin Man, to help to lead the eyes of the image, right? So let me review to you. So you guys all agree with me that in a very cold area, people would like to move to a warmer place, right? That's human, like it is in our psychology, right? So in editing, what does it mean? It means that if we see a color that is cold, we tend to move our eyes to the warmer colors. And who is the expert in playing with color to lead the eyes? Anybody here knows? Let me see. Who is the grandmaster in oil painting to do that? No one? No, come on, give me some answer. Well, the answer is Van Gogh. If you look at his photos, he really know how to use the complementary color so that your eyes would always move from the blue to the gold, you know, all these things. And by studying more of his photos, you know that he's actually trying to tell you a story in his painting. Well, for us, we are trying to tell a story in our editing. In that, it's like, okay, I'm lost, I'm a viewer, I look at your photo, what do I do, Tin Man? And I said, hey, come on, like, this is the cold color. Come with me, I'm bringing you to a warmer place. I'm bringing you to a brighter place. And then so their eyes would listen to me and then it just like come to this part right here. So if you can see right here, this is the green color, right? This is some reflection right here. And green in this case is a little bit in the cold tone. And then here, the fur of the bear is kind of in the warm tone. And so what do? You ask me, right? You said naturally it's going to come right to the warm, right? The answer is wrong. You have to help the viewers a bit. And now I want to demonstrate to you another story, which is really the last of today's discussion. I'm really having a lot of fun today. God, I love editing. So, assume that you are in a very noisy Starbucks right now. You are doing some reading, you're doing some writing, and then you're listening to music, right, in a Starbucks. And then this group of like teenagers just came in, like laughing and playing. It's very loud, right? And then you can't even hear. You can hear Tin Man talking about this, right? Like assume you are in the Starbucks right now, and then you're listening to Tin Man's Facebook Live and in your earphone, and it's so noisy. So what do? So what you do is you increase the volume of the phone, right? You raise the volume of the phone to listen to me more clearly. But the problem is these kids, these teenagers, were so noisy that you are already blasting it to the top of the volume, and you still couldn't hear me. And what do? And any of you have used the Apple, is it called the AirPod or the AirPod Pro actually, noise cancelling earphones? Anybody have used it? So what the noise cancelling earphone does is that when you put in your earphone and then when you turn it on, it doesn't increase the volume of the phone of the sound, but what it does is it actively cancels the noise of the surroundings. So all of a sudden, when you put in this AirPod Pro or whatever, Bose or whatever noise cancelling earphone, you didn't change the volume really, but all of a sudden, like the whole surrounding is so quiet that you hear all the most crisp sound that you can get. And if you even increase the volume a little bit with the noise cancelling on, it's so much louder, so much clearer, and it's so much more pleasant in that. So the key thing that I want to teach you is some phenomena. Well, I think I'm qualified to say that because I'm a Chinese. It's about the yin and yang of the whole world. So every time when you try to force it, like, oh, the surrounding is so noisy, I want to increase the volume and all, and eventually you just crack your ear, right? You have to you lose your hearing, and then you have to go to hospital, right? But instead, you control the yin and yang. You push the surrounding sound lower, and all of a sudden everything is louder, and then you increase the volume a little bit louder, and everything is so much better in that, right? So what what I want to tell you about this subtle thing is you never like increase the saturation all of a sudden. You never increase the sharpness all of a sudden. Everything has to be yin and yang. When you, for example, in this photo right here, when you increase the warmth of this bear right here, you also at the same time decrease the warmth of the grass. But you don't do it so much. You just do it like maybe 2% of this and 2% increase in this, and boom, it's crazy. It is so powerful and is so natural that your eyes could not help but immediately move from the grass to the bear and then to here. And this is what like if you listen to your noise cancelling earphone again and think about this concept, it is very subtle. Like all my editing, if you look into my photos in Instagram and all, very subtle, but it's always yin and yang. If you want to sharpen something, you remove the noise of something and blur something. If you want to increase the color of something, you increase the warmth, decrease the warmth of the surrounding. And what else? So this is the cold to warm. And if you don't believe me, again, the assignment for you guys is to go back to the oh, I still have quite a few people here. I thought I was just talking to myself now. Go back to the Mona Lisa photo and look at the color, the warm color tone and the cold color tone, and see how Da Vinci expertly utilized the color to guide your eyes from the cold area to the warmth of Mona Lisa's eyes. And this is exactly what this is. And anyways, so I want to kind of give a pause here. You guys are probably very curious about all these things, but what I hope to do today really is for you to have a completely new thinking about editing, which is this one. So I mentioned to you two techniques, right? One of the techniques is to do the gradual sharpening. So this is the least sharpen. You don't touch the sharpness on here. And then here you do maybe 10% more sharpening, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. This one, 120%. And then your eyes will say, oh, this is super sharp, but I can accept it because it's so gradual. Like, it's moving. It's like, oh, my eyes is moving from here to here. And then, oh, the cold color is the cold color to the warm color, right? And this is what, so after I talk about these two, the third technique that I want to tell you is the stacking technique. So the first technique is the sharpening, right? And the second method is from the cold to the warm. So you are stacking two kind of weapons, right? Should I say weapons? Two, what I call in my when I talk to other people is called tension. So it's almost called drama too. So you are stacking two tensions, and when you stack two very subtle change of tensions, it becomes double the power. You 2x the power if you double that. And so my method here, I actually have about 9 tensions in my technique. Oh, you probably cannot see it in my photo editing right now because everything is so subtle. But just think about it. If I have 9 different tensions all driving your eyes from the lower left of the photo to the hook of the photo, people couldn't stop just don't share this video, otherwise I'll sound too crazy. but you know, everything is in their psychology. They couldn't tell, because I'm using a very subtle adjustment that if they look at only a single tension, they would not see the difference. But when I stack 9 tensions together, or sometimes 10, 11, 12 tensions, it's all up to me, because I know exactly what I can do, what I can do in this in any of the photos. And then, like, so right now, every time I post photos in Instagram or Facebook and stuff, I knew people would be so attracted to the hook of the image that they have to look into it, and they didn't realize how come their eyes were drawn to it. And it's pretty cool. And well, it's almost unfair when I said that, but you have to look into this new method, which is to think about it and try to adjust a little bit of your own workflow tonight or from now on to see how this is different from a global adjustment. So this is all about right, you still have to do some global adjustment, but very minor. But the key thing here is global adjustment is the key to what? To lead the eyes of the viewers to the hook, right? So so let me see what else do I need to say. So I talk about the noise cancelling earphone. I thought of this example, which is pretty good. I'm pretty happy about it. And the stacking, you learn about it, right? And then being subtle, you also learn about it. So yeah, so this really is the secret of how Mona Lisa is timeless, is such a classic. And if you look into the painting, like is it called the Salvator Mundi, the recent Da Vinci painting that sold like $500 million, $600 million. If you look into it, he used all these techniques that I talk about and more. And so like it gets very interesting, right? When you apply it, people react to it, and then you try to explore more. Okay, so so I hope you guys find today's talk valuable. I talk way beyond the time that I'm supposed to talk about. I was planning to do it 15 minutes, but I'm glad that I spent some time here. Okay, so Damien, okay, you like it, that's good. And then, okay, so York is here, a lot of people, Dave is here, Scott, okay, I see that. Let me see if you well, yours is not loading, don't worry, you can rewatch it in the replay. Okay, so okay, good. Cindy, you know the hook. So now, from now on, you have to. Oh, what is it? Well, anyways, I don't know how to turn it, how to invert it. But anyways, I'm glad that you guys enjoy this talk and listen to it. If you really like it, share it with your friends. Ask them to join the group, because we are gonna have more that I want to show you. But the most important thing I want is to share with you what you don't understand from my talking today. Like anything you want me to elaborate more. And because this may be a big shock to you, because this may be completely different from anything you have. Oh, I finally find that button right here. And thanks a lot to let me know that this thing is inverted. I don't know how to, maybe I have to flip the phone, but then I can't look at the screen anymore. But anyways, God, I'm sweating too. Okay, so this is a new concept. In the beginning, even I couldn't accept it, because this is like when I was driving one day, I think, and I said, like, gee, this is not right. Like what I've been doing, like all this, I already own the best techniques from my friend Carl. Right? This is supposed to be the best thing, but every time I try it, people were just saying that your photo is so sharp. You are an expert in Photoshop. Wow. It's like, oh no, definitely not. I don't want to be called a good Photoshop guy. Right? I want my photos to be enchanting. I want my photos to hook people, and I want my photos to be edited in a quality that can be printed in a museum quality, right? Okay, so guys and girls, think about it and let me know what you think. And if you are watching it in a replay, also let me know your comments. You can type it here, and I'll get notifications, so I'll read your comments, and then I'll try to improve for my next talk. And you guys are still very curious about what are the other techniques, right? And God, it took me so long to break the code, to hack it, to know what really is the human psychology is. But once I knew it, it's so much fun. It's so much fun, I tell you guys. All right, so I'll have a good evening, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, all right, bye bye.